냥제 짐볼 조도 닝미장 종네 몸 짐볼 갑자도 바크르 다른 건 잔도 실물도 돈바 되지 잔라 숑즈로 네 저거 저링이 장가 자거도 집선로 열라면 지금 반조 자라 소란다 공기 또반 보러 신질로 공기 또반 보러 신질로 공기 또반 보러 신질로 야나니다 카르타다 알라다 르르모 마시아장 담지 조라 망보르남 투비니 Kurtama sha tatirtane dangwada kibayina digbra kibayina digbra sha sanchin jikje lamda na goa tom namdan ro sha lohon jinam tomdan da lodan dambe lichje da kawala soten ma sha sormu tsigna jangma sha arkawa zhedang lichje da zhedang nila sokba da chingda shungondon ro sha 대신 다른 집들 샤 대임산 주도 대임산 모주나나 마음타르 나르들 남버 샤 잔덕기 버샤 유시르 개버 기나 측경 주도 라마라나 갑스르지 갑진 집 조시 라 타르모자장 마양샤 라미고 안냠버 샤 고탕 라발라소바 럭베 카나 가버 샤와 진니 잠바이 측덕기나 리버르 샤 단다 터버란 득바당 고속스르전 담바당 핍직 타르모 자르바 이 년소 놀라 소르 스마 다바 님거 쇼바 탐칠라 예능 아르지르메 버샤 모찬직 집 담바 이 버마 서비 츠르네샤 거발라 소샤와 건 톰빔단더 파우르샤 자양 텐지샤나 릉급타라 안도르샤 라우니 지르 그룹 정착당 로마다당 차파르나메 예르데르 라마니 나너 지마나버 마샤고 Kianji laso chitopa teken lama teken lama namla war ti taba langni na jantak lan chibdir sha lami lomar man loma lamim dand man himgar tagdang damba dang shakso sheba lobra sha lohon lan kambra dang lami kyang kang sarpa te lap tati lagni ji lodang dambe lamrasha chambab jidme gerwadang rang kamshut lapzon be punji ramsho lende ba gawe pansan lobrasha navi lami shawa la tate jima nangwar yang kagbar namna shada shi yang gesam danla digman ger Dharma mava chiji go lama jibshit kanyin ba mamni shit ba kanpang na te tang te lam bat te shat gungu zhu lokun jim zhang ji durjin zamba ni de song bar si ne ngu bo tam chi ji lama yong sim ni bar sha samba tak be lo ma no kum chok sam na kyap song na lami ji sin jig ba na ka to no jar bar jim bar sha te ne ngak su jim ba yi tam chu shnot shen ni se sa wi tong ap ji jen na lag dang zin ba Zimba nito sha tertar lami jinji lo ma na ma li panu ki da lo shkyun medan davshi bi gewam tayib dak chipsag ba tinun rowa kun dinan rogan nir da gergir jig lamar ngap chibar logon jimbo shtagan jim zabar zogso rgyagar jim kambo pamma kara warda dang jichinji lozawa gerlong rinchin zambu girjan jide khtalan bapago.
The 50 verses on Guru devotion is a well-known Buddhist text that was originally composed by Bodhisattva Ashvaghosha. The 50 verses on Guru devotion. As a Buddhist, it is very necessary for us to study. Today, I am giving you the transmission of this text. However, as for the specific content of each verse, there are only 50 verses. These 50 verses I think if you have the opportunity to study them, it would be very meaningful for me personally. Receiving it is not enough. So you should be standing directly in front of Khenpo Khenmo this moment. Learn it well. Nowadays, many people don't understand following a qualified spiritual teacher. If that's the case, even if you study many teachings, whether you can truly attain realization is very difficult. When I translated the Jewel Treasury Treatise, it had a chapter on this. We distributed these to everyone, and our Khenpos and Khenmos gave guidance, but though we don't have much time now, our teachers from before in the past stressed relying on a qualified spiritual teacher. This is noted in the Great Chariot commentary on the Rest of My Nature preliminary practices. But in 50 verses on Guru devotion, there are some crucial instructions. These teachings are, I translated commentaries of Master Tsongkhapa today. I am simply providing a detailed explanation of the verses, and that is all I will be doing for now. Nothing else will be discussed. Next time, when you have the opportunity, I hope you will reflect carefully, relying on a spiritual teacher and just how it should be done. I think this point is extremely important.
니발라양 니데 건줍 랍텐네 건줍 랍텐바노 데와당 디위 여친 쇼무체나 디왕의 쇼나 강적당 리적바당 레로라 소반 페네 람라 버칫 버덕 프르시테 파탄베 머남지 킬라 켜총 디글라 켜치 송바르타르단 디왕의 먼조와가고 디시르도 응보테더 머떡바당 딩르비 남바르 고트마니 테라 슈시 침보 키테테더 예드 버멜레 로바람 batja 양더 냠더 데르트르피 뎀주르 탐치는 녹총라 녀무만보던 제라 연 모치 원장 가지글라 연던 요테 돈베 딩르지 라원 냠버케르 미 샹치 드바나 치가고 데버르네베 샹치 드바나 치슬라버 송데 다금더터 킵기 응원이 춥줍도 요바나 소름치가 인제 디인들 지정 데치디 추 뇨장 추레장 데치드 gedmer 종 쓰르지 추동 대와니 판선도 쪽순로 와라 정으로 샤데 잔다나 싱거 노트 동압 꾸르 따르트 당보 긍임바테니 타명니르급선 기른로 냠도 점데 데치 강숑 추당 쳬라 냠보 랑고데 런전 저용 공바고 ཁྱེད དེ ངུ མ་ཟམ བེ ཆུ ཅི ལག་ཆར མན་རོ བར ད་དུང བདེ་ཅི ཟར་བ་ཅི གོང ད རེ་ནེ དོན་དང ཤ མང་བོ ངང་ལ མ་ཚེག དེ བ ཉིམ་བར ཡང དེ་ཉི ཅིར་ཏར ཐམ་བར ཅིར་ཏར ཐམ-ཐམ ད ཇར་བ ཆོག་ཤི ཅི དར་ཚ དེམ་བར ཤ་ཝ གོམ་ཆོག ཀ་ཅན་ད ཤང་ཅིབ སེམ་ཇོང ག དམ་བ་ལ དེ་ནེ ཅིད ལམ་དན ཁེར་སར སོ ཇན་ཡང ཡོད མོ་ཅི དེ རེ་ཅིག དེ་ཟམ 드르양 웬바 땐네 서정 당 쩌머 정 구바너 등을 남치르당 자고 돈 담라 땐바 흥함이 시소
Next, I will talk about the application of suffering and happiness on the path. Regarding the earlier section of the application of suffering and happiness on the path, its initial meaning, its main meaning, as well as its final meaning, are each divided into three distinct aspects. The main discussion focuses on transforming suffering into the path and transforming happiness into the path. In the first doctrinal teaching, transforming suffering into path, conventional level turn suffering into path. Ultimate level turn suffering into path. These two sections have already been covered earlier. Next, we will discuss transforming happiness, joy into the path. We will explain this principle. We discuss the second, the application of happiness on the path. This can also be divided into applying it on the, and also applying it on the path based on the ultimate truth, these two aspects. Regarding transforming suffering, many people should have some experience with it. Everyone feels that, in my opinion, it seems that in the process of study and practice, there should be some meaningful and valuable gains. If you haven't forgotten these key instructions and are able to persist, then in the future, when you encounter suffering, not only will you not be afraid, you may even feel really very joyful. Sometimes we even pray to the three jewels or to spirits. If you have the ability, bring suffering upon me, bring adverse conditions, bring obstacles. If you really have confidence, we would actually say this when transmitting these profound teaching. Sometimes we do indeed easily experience suffering. At that time, it is also a blessing or accomplishment given to you by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. We transform this suffering and happiness into the use of the Tao when turning suffering into path. If you experience intense suffering, Buddhas and bodhisattvas are blessing you, granting you a special kind of accomplishment. You should really feel happy about it. Oh, now my daily practice is without a doubt truly and deeply meaningful. The three jewels are blessing me lately. I have been feeling especially troubled. You can also think of it this way. Of course, our practice also as well depends significantly on our own efforts. In the future, we also sincerely hope that everyone will truly integrate these teachings into their hearts. If the teachings are in your heart, in a brief, simple pith instruction like that, maybe in this very life, you will truly become a practitioner. That's what I think myself. Too bad we don't have many people this time. Unlike a few years ago, when so many people had the opportunity to hear the teachings. But on the other hand, well, having fewer people is fine. As long as you receive these teachings, even if it's just some of our later audio recordings or lecture notes, if you are able to access these, perhaps many people will be able to transform suffering in the future. It will be hard for them to regress on the path of practice. In this way, our study of the Dharma is indeed very meaningful. It doesn't necessarily have to take a very long time, nor do you need to use particularly grand or lofty words when you write. Using simple and clear language is often just as effective. Transforming pain and pleasure into practice and looks like only 4 characters. But in reality, if you are truly diligent, perhaps even in just these few classes of ours, you can truly achieve genuine meaning. If you are not particularly diligent and not all that exceptionally thorough in your approach in what you do, even after many years have passed, there still might not be any significant change at all. A saying in Dharma Garden that I find very interesting. If a person lives 100 years but is lazy and not diligent, it's not as good as encouraging body and mind for a day. If a person lives for 100 years but is always lazy and not at all diligent in their actions or behavior, it is actually meaningless, because you are always, some people are with a teacher 20 or 30 years, yet even that is, as long as you are not diligent, it may not be meaningful. Some people might even develop wrong views in the end. Recently, some people who relied on their teacher had been in front of their teacher for 33 years. They developed wrong views. In the end, both themselves and others were ruined. For people like this, there's truly no meaning in this life or the next. But if you are diligent, even if it's just a short teaching like this, if you actually practice it, even if it's only for just one single day, you can greatly inspire your body and mind. And if you study earnestly, perhaps the benefits you gain will also be inexhaustible. Past masters, in their pursuit of the Dhamma, indeed it seems the time they spent was not very long either. Recently I mentioned Chaglo Chawa. He went to India for only a few years. After returning, he could spread the Dhamma and help others. He truly got the essential teachings, Master Faxian's words. He didn't actually stay in India for very long. Some of us already spent more time than Faxian did seeking the Dharma in India. So was the wish-fulfilling jewel. He didn't stay in Sarata for very long. According to his biography, it was only 6 years. Wherever we are in this moment, no matter the place, if you truly want to seek the Dharma, you may face obstacles. There will be hardships. But if you overcome these hardships, and deeply, truly let the Dharma merge with your mind, then you can spread Dharma, and I think there should be opportunities. I want to take a moment to especially address some of the young people who are here. If you truly let your mind and the Dharma become one, there should be even more opportunities in the future. Although sometimes now, whether it's the times in the secular world or society, things changing, just like the weather in spring, summer weather's the same. Now, the weather here in Tibet, at times the sun is blazing. I feel so happy. But then all of a sudden it starts pouring down with heavy rain and loud rumbling thunder, and soon the sky is clear again. So our entire era, in an entire person's lifetime, sometimes it feels like there are no opportunities at all. Even, I don't know, what will become, but sometimes those opportunities really do appear, even if only for a moment. As long as we truly have something deep within our hearts, even if it's simply transforming happiness and suffering as the path, if you realize yourself, you will definitely want to share this understanding with others. But if you yourself really aren't interested, then you might not share it with others at all, for any reason. If you share without practicing yourself, if you haven't explored it personally for yourself, then it won't have much real meaning for others either. So I think in the future, if everyone truly feels a connection to this Dharma, I think that although the scope of my teaching this time, there are only a few people here, look, all of you are masked. Usually with these masked people, if the nose is covered, you cannot recognize them. The most important part of a person, the nose is very important. If the nose is covered, generally, if it's a thief, they definitely have to cover their nose. If the nose isn't covered, it just won't do. But some Dharma friends, when wearing, if your nostrils are exposed, that's not good. Wearing a mask or not wearing one makes no difference. My reach is limited, but in another 10 or 20 years, or how many years from now, there will be many people here who will carry on this spirit and spread it to all corners of the world. There will definitely be such opportunities. At that time, just look, just for a moment, pause. This very brief application of suffering and happiness, if people in the world got it now, I think for them it might be worth more than any amount of money, truly. If you give someone $1 million, will they be happy? Not necessarily. If he buys a car, even a car, for example, maybe a single $1 million just isn't quite enough to buy the very best BMW or Mercedes-Benz luxury car, let alone a luxurious, prestigious Rolls-Royce. He might not be able to just buy a good car, give an application, suffering and happiness, treat someone well, with kindness. If he can understand it, maybe in this lifetime, this kind of wisdom will always be with him, always accompanying him. When he leaves or dies, he will also leave in a state of great happiness. So in this way, we're not talking about great Dharma. 5 great treatises, tantras. Let's start with just this small teaching. If you can give this to others in any way, this is a kind of spiritual wealth. This kind of wealth is really extremely meaningful. So I just want to say this to everyone right beforehand. When you study, you must be diligent and serious. When we studied Dharma with teachers, we were especially earnest, I can say that. At that time, the conditions were truly very harsh. When I think of it, compared to now, back then things were quite different. It was all ascetic practice. When we don't have power for a while, we feel miserable. Back then, let alone electricity, we burned firewood and had to go across the mountains around Lorunga to collect those tree branches. Sometimes those branches were especially, or even very quite wet. Whatever we did, we couldn't get them to light. I actually have an uncle, and once I stayed in a mud house for a while. The mud house was really, there was absolutely nothing at all inside it. It was completely empty. What were the windows like back then? We carefully put together 4 long wooden planks. That was the window. And we covered it with a bit of plastic sheeting. A little gentle white light would come through. That was our window. When I was living in such a particularly shabby old mud brick house, a place that was truly quite run down, one of my father's older brothers, my uncle, he stayed at my place for one night. He saw how hard my life was, and his personality was quite different from my father's. My father was always a very upright person. His brother, complete opposite. He was especially and strongly opposed to me becoming a monk. When I was trying to light the fire, no matter what I did, it just wouldn't catch. He watched for a while and gradually became really unhappy. You could have just enjoyed a teacher's salary directly. So what exactly is the point of coming here and living like this? He was a bit hungry himself and wanted something to eat, but I just couldn't quite get the fire to light. He said to me, very dissatisfied, thinking back over your life, what would you say is the biggest mistake you've ever made, the one thing you most regret or wish you could change? And then he gave me a few examples. Then with my classmates, this person, that person, they all make a certain, look at you now, living this incredible kind of life, right here and now. So back then, honestly, it really was a bit tough for us. But at that time, I did really study very deeply. Back then, in terms of worldly matters, I hadn't succeeded at anything. I let go of everything for spiritual practice. I felt I had to work even harder. Otherwise, at that moment, it seemed like I was a total and utter failure. That made me put more effort, especially relatives and friends. Back then, it wasn't like it is now. They were still very much opposed to it. A lot of people were really initially against it. So I think that during the process of studying, everyone, sometimes from time to time, a person really needs to motivate themselves. You really have to encourage yourself to truly learn the Dharma. In the past, those great monks and masters from China who went to India, their courage was truly remarkable. We, as descendants, have a lot to admire in them. Sometimes I read about Fazun Nenghai, De Jong, and many other renowned great masters who made the journey to Tibet. Some of them were famous while others were not famous at all. But after they returned back in their own communities, their spread of the Dharma was successful. So I think no matter what, when we study, we must study deeply, carefully, and solidly. We shouldn't always be distracted by things and then end up not actually learning the Dharma. That's really not right. We don't live just for enjoyment and pleasure, simply for fun. We should truly live in order to attain the Dharma. That way, life is meaningful. As for what we eat, where we live, and how we sleep, anyway is absolutely fine. As long as we can get by, I think that's enough. Some of us are picky about food and accommodation, paying attention to these things. We argue Vajra friends, unhappy with this, unhappy with that. But we never really explore the Dharma that is truly meaningful. That really is a bit of a pity. I really don't even know where I was going with this. Now, I can't even get myself back on track. When you're driving, you get lost. And after driving for a very long time on the road, you finally, at last, turn back. Next, let's take a moment to talk about the very first point, relying on the conventional world to transform happiness into a part of the path. Two aspects, ultimate, conventional. We use conventional methods to guide the path. Happiness must become the path. Suffering can become the path. How to turn happiness into the path. Isn't it really better the happier we are? What can be turned into the path? Isn't it best not to change happiness, let it be? But in reality, happiness also needs to be transformed into the path. So when do we do this? When we encounter happiness or external circumstances that bring happiness, when we ourselves are especially famous or wealthy, healthy body gives happiness, when we feel joyful inside, or when we come across some pleasant external situations, like when we go out to relax and see the blue sky and white clouds, no matter what kind of food or clothing you have, you might feel that you look really good yourself and think, I must be the most successful person in the world. You become intoxicated in such a truly beautiful atmosphere. There will be times, so at such moments, if you don't make this the path, what problems could arise? If you just go along and don't transform it into the path, letting you be happy, then it's very easy to lose yourself. Actually, when we're suffering, we always encourage ourselves, telling ourselves we must be strong when we encounter suffering. When we're happy, we indulge ourselves. After indulging, it's really very easy for a person to degenerate. If you don't transform this into the path, if you follow the happiness, then what will keep increasing? Arrogance will increase, complacency will increase, as well as laziness and other obstacles to spiritual practice. This is indeed absolutely very important. Many of us might think, as long as we're happy, it doesn't matter. But in fact, when we're happy, we often become especially, even remarkably arrogant. Those particular times, we feel especially impressive about ourselves. The Lucifer Effect, I don't know if you've read it yet. It's a very famous book in the West, The Lucifer Effect. The Lucifer Effect is a book originally written by a professional psychologist in the United States. Why is he so very famous? Actually, this is also related to the idea of transforming happiness into the path. You could say it's a real-world case study. So what was it at the time? a Stanford professor who to research and experimentation. Well, there actually appear to be approximately 24 students in them. Each of them was paid 15 a day to participate in 2-week experiment. So what really happened during those 2 weeks? These 24 people are divided into two groups. A group of prisoners standing together. The other group played the prison guards, the police inside the prison. 12 people were guards and 12 were prisoners. Then they had them act as real prisoners and guards. Such a person should do it. At first, everyone was relatively, maybe because they were all students, there wasn't much difference. But after about a week or so, maybe each person had truly become their role. What those prison guards said beat the prisoners so badly it was unbearable to watch and became extremely aggressive. As for the prisoners, they became very self-abased, feeling very sad and fragile. No choice lasted 2 weeks. They stopped halfway. What does this show? It shows humans, even if you're not such a great person, once you have money, when you have fame and status, you really start to believe you are that kind of person. I really feel this principle deeply. Sometimes when we select some volunteers, you're the leader and you're the one being led. At first, people feel embarrassed. At a certain point, wow, I realized I'm actually the leader now. But in reality, that wasn't the case. Some people act like prisoners, some act like something else, people like that. A lot of us are like this. Back when we were in some Buddhist study groups, if you were a group leader, at first it seemed okay. Once you gained status, the person be changed, they'd ignore their old friends and family. This happens easily when someone gains this kind of reputation, acquires wealth, and has a dignified appearance. At that time, especially next to him, some people around him who aren't very wise, constantly flattering him, always constantly praising him, he feels proud. It's easy becoming arrogant. So what does this mean? His happiness isn't a path of practice. Happiness as a path, being a leader, is nothing to brag. There are still so many people above me. For example, some leaders like this, deputy chief, being a deputy section chief is impressive before the section chief arrives. But once the section chief shows up, the way you speak changes. So a person should still, if you have time, you should read The Lucifer Effect when you get the chance. Sometimes, by reading it, you can see many of our social phenomena and certain underlying patterns. What does this mean? In our process of spiritual practice, it is indeed easy to fall and easy to create obstacles to cultivation. The Mahaprajna Paramita Shastra also states, if a person is arrogant and self-important, then the water of Dharma cannot enter. As we mentioned before, on the mountain of arrogance, the water of merit cannot stay. If a person is especially proud and extremely self-satisfied, perhaps even a bit smug, the water of Dharma cannot possibly merge into that person. It should be fair to say this. Really, if we cannot transform our own happiness into a means for the path, this person seems successful, but in reality, they are actually falling into decline. Mifram Rinpoche also said, all samsaric existence is actually like a dream, like an illusion. When wealthy, do not be arrogant. And when in decline, do not become timid or fearful. When we are prosperous, we should not be arrogant either. What is so remarkable about these worldly pleasures anyway? You should think like this. Fame, even though I have a bit of money, so what? It's really nothing special, honestly. I personally have significantly less money than the richest person in the world. Even though I'm a bit taller, that's nothing to brag about either, honestly. Even though things have been a little better for me lately, really, but in the cycle of samsara, I may be doing well today, but tomorrow I might not be. Especially for arrogant people in particular, there are even those who are very powerful, but in their next life or later in this life, they fall into decline. In the Buddhist scriptures, there was an old bhikshu. The old bhikshu swept the floor every single day, but there were also 500 other monastics. 500 monastics. The old bhikshu was the most pitiable one. Why was he truly so pitiable? Everyone looked down on him, and he himself was especially slow-witted. Whenever he recited, he couldn't even memorize a single verse, so everyone despised him. But later on, eventually, there was an occasion at some point in time. It seemed to be when the king was making offerings to the Sangha, then the Buddha knew that the time had finally come for the old bhikshu to be truly liberated at last. At this moment, the Buddha manifested as a tree spirit. The old bhikshu thought, so many people look down on me, I should just end my life. He ran under a tall old tree, slowly preparing to hang himself. Tree spirit rebuked. What use is it to kill yourself? You should sincerely repent. At the time of Kashyapa Buddha, you're a Tripitaka bhikshu. Why you like this? It was because you looked down on others then. Later, after he repented, the Buddha manifested his true form and taught him Dharma. He attained the ultimate truth. Afterward, he was asked to serve as chief seat. He said, I don't dare. 500 people can't stand me. The Buddha said, it's fine. You may go ahead and teach them the Dharma. 500 bhikshus reached palace. Bhikshu sat in chief seat. Many people looked down on him again. And those below started to feel dissatisfied with him. But because the king was present, none dared say anything. He was asked to teach Dharma. When he taught the Dharma, the way he taught, with great care, because he had already reached a certain level of realization in the end, he really taught exceptionally well. None of them had expected that he would teach so well. Later, many of his disciples also attained accomplishment. So what was the main reason for this? That old bhikshu in Kashyapa Buddha, he was a great Tripitaka master, but because he looked down on many people in this life, he became lowly. Because he taught a lot of Dharma back then, he also attained accomplishment in this life. As for his 500 disciples, it seems they were also in fact his disciples in the past. Therefore, in this life, even if we have a little merit or wealth in this life, we shouldn't feel especially happy about it in our hearts. Within samsara cycle, many of the sufferings are not really reliable either. After such suffering, even after enduring so much, there will still in the end be happiness. When we are happy, we really shouldn't become particularly arrogant either, not even a little. If you are happy today, tomorrow you might not feel well. Tomorrow lose the reputation. Tomorrow you might lose your wealth. Things change very quickly, just like the weather. When the sky is clear without a cloud, we feel happy the weather is nice today. You can't do that. In just a moment, there might possibly be a sudden heavy rain or even a hailstorm, so please be prepared for rapidly changing weather conditions. When it's pouring rain, so cold. Wonder what now, there's nothing you can do. That's uncertain, sky could clear. Life is like this, so is ours. So naturally there should be both happiness and also pain in life. We shouldn't be overly concerned about either. That's just how it is. Master Padampa Sangye spoke about this. People often find it easy to cope with suffering, especially in their daily lives, but it's much more difficult and challenging to truly handle and deal with happiness. Padampa Sangye's teachings are excellent. If we put in real effort ourselves, we face suffering, we can certainly manage to deal with it and handle things as they come. Some of Asam Dharma friends truly, when suffering, are strong. At those times, they become even more composed and collected. When a person faces suffering, that's when you can really see what kind of person they are. Some people become wise, gain capability, and aid others. Sometimes we don't have high expectations, but when encountering those times, some people, you could say, really do stand out absolutely. Then there are others who are strong when facing suffering, but when they actually encounter happiness, they just can't really handle it. In happy time, it's very easy to lose your sense of direction. You think everything is going so well for me right now. After a while, because worldly pleasures are especially attractive and particularly tempting to ordinary people, so when Dharma teachers practice used to be extremely ascetic, once they gained fame and wealth and receive respect, offerings and support from others, sometimes it seems more like some Dharma teachers are like this. Some of the Dharma teachers I have transmitted teachings before, used to be very willing to endure hardship in their practice. Later on, they would bring along a few disciples with attendants on the left and right, looking just like a great lamas. When you see this, it's like, oh yes, here I am. I'm over there spreading Dharma and benefiting sentient beings, not bad. The government also actually supports me quite well. It's completely different from before now. But even whether they can truly spread the Dharma is hard to say, because in their hearts they have arrogance, feeling of personal success. This is my chief disciple. That one is another of my great benefactors. They seem to have dialogues with scientists, and in fact I do too. But in fact, he doesn't understand science at all. And even when he tries to talk about scientific topics, it's clear that he lacks. People like this still don't know whether they're really dealing with any difficulties or with suffering. Maybe in the past, during the Cultural Revolution, some great masters still at that time were completely able to face that kind of suffering. But later, after the policies opened up and there was religious freedom in the country, in the end, many received offerings and later even returned to lay life, and their fate was rather tragic as well. There are also such cases in Tibet. So when we encounter suffering, some people can't handle it, can't transform it into a part of their path. Some people can manage suffering, but when it comes to happiness, they really can't. When they encounter happiness, they eventually end up falling into degeneration. This kind of phenomenon definitely does exist. In fact, not being swayed by happiness is also a very difficult thing, if not swayed by happiness. This really isn't easy. So we use various methods to contemplate that these pleasures are impermanent and they are suffering. This is the truth. Moreover, happiness brings disenchantment. We strive to eliminate a mind of heedlessness. This is important. Through various means, as stated in the Madhyama Kalakara, what we call happiness is actually just a disguise for suffering. It is merely an illusion created by conceptual thought. This is also explained in the Madhyama Kalakara, in the 400 verses on the middle way. It is actually stated that happiness is in fact suffering. Happiness keeps changing. When it is lost, people all feel it as suffering. So from many perspectives, when we experience happiness, this happiness actually doesn't have any real significance or particular importance in this context. In fact, because of these worldly pleasures, from a worldly point of view, are like illusions and dreams. In the ultimate sense, there is nothing to be gained at all. Approach this in different ways. Our own happiness is not reliable at all. Buddha's previous life stories, sutra, pleasures of heaven and human world are all regarded as unreal. Happiness in heaven, people, if we look at it, is not truly existent. View the world like a fool's play. All forms are empty and void. We should know all worldly pleasures are just like the games of fools. Although they have form, when we observe them with careful and thoughtful wisdom, they are all empty in nature, non-existent. Even their very names are in fact quite difficult to establish. Understand the principle by taking the time to thoughtfully contemplate and reflect on it, carefully examining the subject from a variety of perspectives, viewpoints and angles. Pleasures in human world truly are not in fact reliable at all. In this way, when you feel especially happy, you will realize this happiness is not really something worth clinging to. This principle is also very clear. We should recognize its true nature. For the sages, when it comes to all forms of happiness, the worldly, contaminated pleasures, there really is nothing particularly worth clinging to. The Udana Varga also states, another day has passed, indeed, and life is diminished accordingly. Like fish, shallow water, what joy can there be? Our so-called happiness, in reality, there is truly nothing to be attached to, nothing at all. As each day passes, actually, our lives are also reduced day by day. It's like a group of fish all together in a pond as the water gradually and completely dries up. Is there really anything for these fish to be happy about? In this human world, with each passing day, I lose time. For example, if I have 30,000 days, after one day passes, lifespan reduced a day. So, what do I have to be arrogant about? Like cattle in slaughterhouse. Even though they may feel happy when wise eyes see that, though you are happy today, in a very short time, you still won't be able to keep your life. As for those fish that are in the pond, if the spring feeding the pond is dry, then even though we see these little fish swimming around and seeming very happy, there's nothing to be happy about. If we understand the world's contaminated phenomena, at that point, you will also feel you won't be arrogant, nor will you regard happiness as something truly substantial. You won't do that. So this is also very important. In this way, we also develop a sense of renunciation towards samsara. Will practice without being so indulgent in your actions or easily distracted by other things, taking care to remain focused, or your own special, unique, doing completely meaningless and pointless things. We simply will not act like that ever. We should think this way. From another perspective, although all the happiness and joy in this world, their benefits are minimal. Whether it's happiness or joy in this world, the benefits they bring us aren't great. Perhaps suffering is even a bit better. Moreover, they are also associated with many faults. Worldly happiness may seem very appealing and especially meaningful, but in reality, these pleasures, for example, the happiness that is brought by wealth and money in the world, also come with many drawbacks. Happiness brought by emotions also has many faults, and whether it's our social status or any worldly pleasure, the genuine happiness they bring in reality, truly behind it, is always connected with much suffering and many faults. They are all intertwined together. However, because of this, it doesn't mean we have to deny all happiness in our lives or cast it aside. We shouldn't do that. But some forms of happiness also have merit, even in this world. In Buddhism, we do not fall into either extreme. It's not entirely that, wow, life is just suffering. Some people write things like, suffering is life. But this kind of statement as it stands is factually incorrect. There should also be happiness, There should be some joy as well. This kind of view, which emphasizes balance and moderation, is much more closely aligned with the principles of the middle way, a path of avoiding extremes. Why are you all so very, really happy? So why say this? Because the Buddha himself also said so. People who have lost their freedom due to suffering, extremely difficult to cultivate enlightenment. For example, those locked in prison, or those plagued by illness, or those who are so poor that they can't even afford basic living expenses, or people with disabilities whose 5 faculties are incomplete. In short, anyone who has lost much of their freedom truly finds it especially hard to practice. Because if they really want to practice, for example, even the most basic freedom, and even the most basic necessities, their basic livelihood is insufficient, difficult for them. People want to practice, but because of family reasons, for work reasons, or because of many, many personal obstacles, some people have everything else they need, but perhaps really lack sufficient faith themselves, which is a kind of lack of freedom. When the mind is incapable and lacks freedom. For such people, the Buddha said, practice is hard. Those who possess happiness easily practice enlightenment, especially those who are happy, have enough to eat, have enough to wear, have a good mindset, and even look quite good, and also have good interpersonal relationships. People who have everything they need and are happy, for them, practicing the path to enlightenment is also very easy. Some of us practitioners, as it were, you could say, don't even have a place to live, don't have enough to eat. If many conditions are lacking, even if you work very hard, in the end, you just can't quite hold on. In the end, you sigh, you can't do anything in this life. It's too hard, my past life karma. I'm too poor, there's nothing I can do. There really are people like this. It's the same when it comes to wealth. Some people don't even have the slightest bit of freedom.
They are completely controlled by others. So when you go to a monastery to practice, you might not even be able to get a week off in some cases. So these are also people without freedom. It's very difficult for these people to attain enlightenment. There are people with some space for themselves who have a certain degree of freedom. There are such people in our society. Their hearts are also very joyful. They really do have the genuine opportunity to truly practice for enlightenment, indeed. So for me to be able to practice the true Dharma so happily, really too blessed. Some people also feel especially satisfied themselves. Whether I'm attending classes or however many years I've studied Buddhism, my family is also very supportive. My friends are also kind to me. I also have some savings myself, personally. On top of that, my faith is actually quite strong. I don't easily develop wrong views about anyone. Right now, I absolutely have everything I need. The great realization of Dzogchen is just a day or two away. So I really feel that, to be honest, 3 jewels, blessing, or the result of good deeds from past lives, I feel it's all very meaningful and significant to me. In this way, what will there really be? Are there going to be skillful means available in this situation practical ways or clever strategies that can help us handle things more effectively and wisely, right? So I feel truly very blessed. I am truly so fortunate. At this time, I should use this happiness as much as possible to attain the true Dharma. Moreover, in the course of regular and consistent practice, I can also, over time, generate a sense of continuous and lasting happiness. What this means is, because of the merit you accumulated, you still have the opportunity to practice in this very life. With this, using such happiness, this happiness is not like many worldly people who, although they have, but they do not use this happiness for the true Dharma, nor do they use it to teach Dharma or help sentient beings. They might use it to create negative karma or get distracted, engaging in various meaningless activities. Many people in the world, though, they have happiness. This happiness does not really become a virtuous cycle for them. If you want to make a much better investment, you might want to take this hard-won happiness that you have gained. But what does this happiness turn into now? This causes suffering, as many do. We shouldn't be like, we should use this happiness to attain the true Dharma. In practice, we should also generate continuous and lasting happiness. Because of the merit I accumulated in my past lives, I have already indeed obtained happiness. Gaining happiness, I should not become distracted or wasted in my happiness. You should practice well, regularly and consistently. If I keep not practice properly and spend all day in a constant lingering state of the same kind of lack of freedom mentioned earlier, or perhaps in a self-restricting state like that, then in fact, whether it's really your ascetic practice or anything else, you won't even gain any real worldly wisdom, as in the praise of the Buddha's deeds. Body exhausted, mind still runs wild. If body-engaged asceticism lacks freedom and is tormented to such an extent, even both body and mind will be disturbed. Not attained worldly wisdom, how can it transcend roots? If you can't give rise to this kind of worldly wisdom, then how much less could you attain supramundane virtues? Therefore, when we indeed possess such freedom, when we have such happiness, we must obtain the Dharma, and in doing so, worldly knowledge first, and then attain the supramundane, our wisdom, mindfulness, and so on, such as these supramundane faculties. In this way, by this method, we allow the true Dharma and happiness to complement each other, relying on happiness for Dharma. Because practicing true Dharma, one will attain happiness in the future. These two can be said to serve as excellent causes for each other, becoming mutually reinforcing. As stated in the Buddhist scripture, if a person joyfully and wholeheartedly practices every virtue, embracing each one with sincere enthusiasm and a positive spirit, by following a path of mindfulness and dedication, overcoming challenges along the way, one ultimately attains the supreme. Many of us nowadays could probably say this. At the very least, we have the opportunity to listen to and study the Dharma. This is truly rare and precious. I personally think so. In one's lifetime, I encounter sorts of stuff. But I always believe studying, thinking, and practicing should be the greatest blessing. Listening, contemplation, practice. We should, through this cause and condition, definitely attain happiness in the future. Because at the time, whether it is the corresponding result you experience or the causes and conditions for these results, in the future, what will you have? You will again have the practice of virtuous deeds and feel happy again. If this is not the case, and I first commit negative actions, then I will continue to suffer in the cycle of samsara endlessly, without end. There is no real meaning in that. So when we truly possess happiness, we shouldn't be attached to this happiness. It must be applied thoughtfully to the Dharma. For everyone here, in the future, each person's life, what the outcome will be is hard to say. It is all ultimately governed by major causes as well as conditions and karma. But generally speaking, even if there's a chance to hear the Dharma once a year, even if perhaps in about 10 months, hear, reflect, and practice Dharma, you should feel that perhaps in your life, this is a key period, the most wonderful period. You should think this way. Because when you have something, many people truly don't realize it at the time. Our parents are alive. You don't feel anything at all. They seem to give my parents, but when your parents are gone, you realize, wow, back then I was truly happy. When we possess the joy of Dharma, we might not be aware of it either. Once the chance to listen, contemplate, and practice is gone, at that time, you will feel, wow, back then I must have been so happy. This really does actually happen. So when we have the profound joy of the Dharma, everyone should truly cherish it. It's very important to absolutely recognize this in the moment. Otherwise, it's like boiling water in a wooden vessel. Everything you started with will eventually be gone without trace. At the very beginning, whether we, for instance, have this happiness or the opportunity to hear the Dharma, but you didn't cherish, if you don't let your happiness and the authentic Dharma not complementing each other, if you don't continuously practice virtuous deeds, maybe at first you'll experience happiness, but because you committed negative actions and made negative aspirations at that time, you acted improperly for these reasons. In the end, your happiness is from past causes. Once that's used up, you won't have any more. It's like when we're charging. If you charged it yesterday, for example, but don't recharge it today, once all the power is used up, there's nothing left. It's like when we use firewood to boil water. In the end, there was no wood or water. Because after the wooden objects have finished burning, water gone evaporated. So in the end, both the support and what is supported all aren't same if I don't rely on happiness and make it the path. If I don't use happiness to practice virtuous deeds, then in the end, everything will not be as it was in the beginning. Nothing will remain. Some of us practitioners, it's true that at the very beginning we were especially diligent and worked very hard. But later on, perhaps due to relying on some external circumstances, whether friends or negative environment or bad habits, various kinds of things, things began well. But in the end, the outcome was very tragic. We don't want, even if our own practice isn't that great, we should definitely not give up on our practice. If we can consistently maintain this state throughout our practice, even for just a little while, and live our whole life this way, I think it's meaningful. Otherwise, if perhaps at the very beginning, you are remarkable, do good, you seem to have everything, but in the end, you have nothing left. The whole outcome is, in all honesty, truly and especially heartbreakingly pitiable. We do not wish for such a result. So we must truly align ourselves with the authentic Dharma in our lives. This still requires us, and our daily conduct is related to this. What happiness can we obtain? It must be combined with the authentic practice of Dharma and fully and truly realize its essential meaning in practice in our lives. So when you are happy, for example, if I go out to relax and have fun, I feel happy. I think the happiness I hope all sentient beings and many others who are in need, I'll return it to them. We must make sure that they can also obtain it. This is simple, but even our simple practices can sometimes be like this. For example, if I get something delicious to eat today, if I am able to share it with you, this is really tasty. Would you like to try some too? This stinky tofu, I love eating it. Would you like to try some too? If you'd like, when you really think about it yourself, not only should you think of yourself, but also of all sentient beings. If you feel a bit reluctant to share, Dharma friends say they can't leave this. But I slowly and carefully visualize in my mind offering it to you. Is this really, truly, genuinely visualization? Can't bear to give up, but I see offering it to you. Just take a moment to really visualize it in your mind. That's definitely more than enough for now. This is how happiness can be combined with authentic Dharma practice. Happiness is combined in authentic Dharma practice. For example, if you feel especially happy today, when you are happy, you can take that happiness. As our predecessors have said, neither happiness nor suffering should ever be wasted. Not at all. What does that mean? If you are happy, but you don't practice authentic Dharma, when you're happy, you should think, although I am happy, this happiness is impermanent. This happiness is bestowed upon me by the Guru and the three jewels. This happiness hopes many sentient beings, if they get it, then this happiness would not be wasted, would have meaning. When suffering, don't waste suffering. If it's painful, I'm in extreme pain right now, and you complain or blame others or the world, then your suffering is wasted. When you are suffering, just as we discussed earlier, you can think, oh, maybe this is actually good for my life. Maybe there are demons of illness, be grateful even for them. Today I am in much, but in samsara there are many sentient beings suffering like this. May they attain happiness soon. For example, when someone gives me an injection, for instance, when I feel scared, I think today I am taking on the suffering of sentient beings. This pain from injection, I have put it to use in my life. It has not been wasted. So these great masters of the past, whether in your daily life, whenever you experience pain or happiness, you should truly make the best possible use of both. For us ordinary people, when we just react like this, really, when I'm happy, I feel a gentle warmth inside and a smile naturally appears on my face. Other than that, there is no deeper practice. But practitioners should be different. When they encounter happiness, they see worldly happiness as a dream, an illusion. Today, I am very happy, but in reality. When we visit the grasslands, we see, I often, very often, when peacefully strolling on the grasslands, frequently see the bones of dead yaks. And when I think of it, oh, well, my body is just like this today too. Once this yak also walked across these grasslands just like this. When it's time, we'll be the same. Sometimes I develop a deep sense of renunciation or an acute awareness of impermanence and death. In this way, my happiness, some people think, something's wrong here. He was happy. Why does seeing a bone make him pessimistic? People may think this way, but spiritual practice, I think, there should be many ways to practice. In fact, there are quite a few different methods and approaches available. When you're happy, you should add genuine spiritual practice. When you're suffering, you should add spiritual practice. Didn't we just talk about the 7 methods of practice the other day? This is the meaning of the Ratnavali, the precious garland of the middle way. In the precious garland of the middle way, a renowned Buddhist treatise, wealth brings happiness now, giving brings happiness later. If you practice generosity, you'll be happy later. There are so many causes of death and so few causes of life. Those are also causes of death, therefore one should always practice the Dharma. The precious garland of the middle way teaches that there are many causes of death and few causes of life. Life causes turn into death causes. Therefore, we must always engage in spiritual practice. So, in our daily lives, everything and anything provides virtuous knowledge for practice. There are many more teachings in the precious garland of the middle way, which explain how both our happiness and suffering can be integrated into our practice. There are many such teachings. All of these reflect the essential meaning of the precious garland of the middle way. Even when we experience happiness, if we do not recognize its true nature, it will not become a favorable condition for genuine Dharma practice. We listen to the Dharma, we are together, I am happy. If we do not recognize the true nature of this happiness, for what it truly is, it will not become a favorable condition for our practice. For instance, if you are not ill and if you have a certain amount of wealth and are happy in all aspects, but if in your happiness you fail to realize happiness mustn't waste,
and happiness for Dharma. If you don't understand, then in fact happiness truly loses its meaning. You will still be hoping for some unexpected happiness to arrive, constantly busy with trivial worldly matters and wasting one's life in reality. This is truly meaningless. Even when we have everything as human beings, when nothing is lacking, sometimes we're not satisfied and still want to pursue any happiness. If someone asks you, are you happy? You should answer, right now. When are you the happiest? You should say, I am happiest right now. Why? Because I truly have absolutely everything I could ever want. I have a healthy body and a normal state of mind. I have ample resources every month. I recently received 500 yuan. So I have what I should have, and because of that, I should feel quite abundant, truly content. What else do I really have right now? The freedom under the vast blue sky and white clouds. Have things, if you don't think this way, I'm just not happy right now. But I really hope that I will be very happy in the future going forward. Most people in the world are like this now. Are you happy? I'm not happy right now, but currently I'm working on a project. Right now, at this moment, I'm collaborating with someone on a project. So in the future, I think, according to my current projections for the future at this time, my plans and arrangements, then in that case, later, I will definitely become like a true wheel-turning king. There really shouldn't be any major problems. Always worrying about gains and losses. Always living life with a hopeful mindset, but wasting my years. So each one of us, when others ask, are you happy? I want to be happy. Do you have everything? You should really have everything. Otherwise, our desires are truly limitless, without any real boundaries. Long ago, there was once a wise, noble, and renowned king called King Brahmadatta. The wheel-turning king, he possessed all the wealth of the entire 3 realms. But in the end, he stood on equal footing with Indra, the king of the gods. Yet he was still not satisfied. In the end, he fell to the human world and died. Perhaps he is a legend or he really existed. The Buddhist scriptures include the Murdagata Sutra. In the Buddhist scriptures, according to the teachings, it is said, wonderful, dazzling, glittering, shimmering treasures rain down from the sky, and those who desire them will never truly, fully, or completely be satisfied. Treasures fell skyward. Those who are driven by desire are never content. There is no happiness in the suffering of desire. Wise should understand this. For those with deep desire, there is never a moment of true satisfaction. Wise people should recognize this. Each of us simply has a different status in life. Everyone's blessings and good fortune are not the same. So what you possess is, in essence, your own fortune. If I am not rich, my circumstances and karma, that I am not especially wealthy. You should think in your heart, oh, I actually already have everything that I need. If you are not especially good looking, you should realize you're already blessed, and that's enough. You should cultivate a sense of contentment within yourself. That would be right. Otherwise, as people in this world, we feel like we are lacking something, always feel unsatisfied, and spend our whole lives chasing and pursuing. In the end, what do we actually manage to achieve? It's really quite difficult to say for sure. We end up wasting our lives in endless busyness and trivial matters. To counter this point, what must we combine with our lives? The essential teachings of practice relying on the nectar of contentment. So to overcome these issues and challenges that we face in our daily lives, we must at all times blend profound methods with action. What is really most important? What should we actually rely on? Yesterday, we used the Sutra of the Buddha's final instructions. A contented person lying on the ground is happy. This is indeed absolutely very important. In the past, Master Lianqi once said, contentment dispels afflictions. I've quoted this before, right? If we understand contentment in life, then all our afflictions, troubles, hardships, and difficulties, all of them will be resolved very quickly in just a brief instant. As long as we have a calm mind, truly people really do need to feel satisfied. I myself feel that I am already content now. No matter what, I have a certain sense of course, there are in particular some Western economists who believe that we should not feel satisfied. Once you feel satisfied, then
you won't be able to tap into your potential. You must keep striving and truly, persistently and constantly move forward with this kind of motivation to truly work hard and struggle, their perspective. But in reality, this is a mentality that inflates desire. No matter what you do, really, it's very difficult to satisfy our desires. So at a certain point, you still need to know contentment. But does that mean you shouldn't strive? Striving is still fine. Especially when it comes to money and wealth in particular, at point, continuing to strive further is sometimes pointless. That's why Nagarjuna Bodhisattva also said, a person content is a rich man with no money. If you're content, even if you lack worldly tainted wealth, you should still be very happy and truly wealthy. So contentment really is like nectar. As I mentioned yesterday, so-called contentment is not just about money, but about many other important aspects, including status, including all sorts of worldly pleasures that are actually harmful. In the end, you still feel satisfied. When you can feel this way about yourself, your mindset relaxes. And when your mindset relaxes, in fact, many favorable conditions will certainly come to you one after another, naturally. If we don't have this and keep pursuing more and more, we become increasingly impoverished. In this regard, many people have personal experience and is able to fully understand the meaning and significance of this principle, recognizing its although there is still reliance on remembering the kindness of the three jewels, as well as the teachings on cultivating turns happiness into path, there are also many other methods. In other words, there are other ways as well. If we make happiness part of the path, relying on kindness. Three jewels, today's happiness is the blessing of my guru, and the three jewels, their blessings make me so happy. Even when it's cold, if perhaps there is a bit of gentle, warm sunlight, or when it's scorching hot. If I get even just a cool breeze, these are also due to the great blessings of the Guru and the three jewels. This happiness is path. There are methods using gratitude to, and there are some teachings on bodhicitta as well. Because of cultivating bodhicitta, when you gain in your mind stream, sometimes all it takes is just a little bit of happiness, a small, simple moment that can, I vow it to all sentient beings, determined to benefit all beings. All the happiness one possesses should, without exception, all be offered with kindness and compassion to all sentient beings everywhere. Grateful to three jewels, the happiness I possess should truly be repaid to the three jewels. Three jewels gave this joy. So in fact, actually, this is another method of transforming happiness into the path. Earlier, we discussed integrating happiness transformation into our practice path, applied in practice. It is quite similar to the way we transform suffering into the path. We must not, at any point, become happiness is suffering, happiness is impermanent. The true nature of happiness is emptiness. We contemplate suffering, emptiness, selflessness. This is what is discussed. Doing this, happiness won't lead to arrogance. Why boast our joy? Happy today, maybe not tomorrow. All happiness is an empty label. What you call happiness may even, for example, be the cause of suffering and so on. We won't be conceited. So in this particular book that we are discussing, the discussion is from this perspective. Of course, there are also methods involving gratitude to the three jewels and bodhicitta, as well as other teachings from renowned great masters and accomplished practitioners. There are quite a few methods for transforming happiness into the path as well. But for now, let's just talk about this much. Dampe Nima said that he might possibly be rather busy right now, you know. There was originally more to discuss, but we'll leave it at this for now, for the time being. Of course, turning happiness into the path is the same as turning suffering into the path. It's the same at first, like renunciants distancing themselves. First go to a quiet place, then combine accumulating merit and purifying obstacles, such as offering mandalas and making offerings to Dharma protectors, as well as reciting the 100-syllable mantra and practicing Vajrasattva, reciting the Vajrasattva mantra 400,000 times, using these methods to gain merit and purify obscurations, just like turning suffering into the path. This practice method is in fact exactly the same. Second, regarding the method of transforming through ultimate truth, just as we previously understood the way to transform suffering into the path, this is the same as before. Our happiness is also in the ultimate truth. Is examined through four types of birth, namely self-arising, from others, from both, and without cause. Happiness, even its mere name, does not truly exist, let alone the actual essence of true happiness. In the ultimate sense, so-called happiness is in fact indeed unattainable. It's an inconceivable state. So in that case, how can happiness exist? I discussed whether suffering exists. You all said it doesn't exist in the ultimate sense. I worry some people who haven't studied Madhyamaka might raise their hands. But yesterday, after returning thought, it seems some of us may have studied Madhyamaka. Otherwise, they would actually think it truly exists. If that were the case, to be honest, it would be somewhat uncomfortable and awkward for all of us, as you might be able to imagine. If suffering exists ultimately, then it becomes a bit, I wouldn't know what to say. It'd be hard, one raising hand, no one did. Today, about happiness does not exist ultimately. Even its mere name simply does not exist at all. So what is there for us to be attached to about happiness? It is not real in the ultimate sense. In the conventional sense, happiness is also easily changeable. So when we are happy, we shouldn't be overly proud. Don't think to yourself, I'm really so great. If you remain arrogant all the time, practice can't succeed. On top of that, you might accumulate a lot of negative karma. To the final outcome, result no one wants. As a practitioner, well, when they are happy, they stay very calm. And when they are suffering, they are equally composed. But the most crucial part of their practice, the work of benefiting sentient beings, is something they never abandon. This is what a true practitioner is. It's not simply about crying and wailing all day long over and over. Just because you're suffering, his tears turn to more than the Indian Ocean. When he is happy, he laughs happily. Is heard by all sentient beings in the 3,000. Even Indra is embarrassed. Why is this person smiling so very happily and brightly? Truly, people cover ears, wondering he could stop. Otherwise, his laughter is just too loud. Even I can't take it anymore. So even Indra finds it a bit unbearable. I think there's actually really no need to worry about it, to feel joy than sorrow. Such a person may not be a particularly good practitioner. So as people at any time, pain and pleasure are both very intense feelings. When these two feelings arise, at the same time, one should remain calm and transform them into the path through practice. This is the best way. There is still another part to come in this series, so stay tuned. Finish tomorrow.
Bandharangara Padma Sodargye Bandharangara Padma Sodargye Bandharangara Padma Sodargye